more reasons to give stimulus checks to millions of low and middle income Americans from President Donald J. Trump are finally out. And this new data that we have just received is the reflection that why millions of Americans need another stimulus check as soon as possible. Look at this. US prices continue to rise in the month of July as Trump's tariff impacts consumer cost. Well, remember that right now prices of everything is going up, and a stimulus check is the answer to these rising prices according to a number of analysts and experts. And in the midst of everything, something good just happened as Josh Hawley introduces legislation to send rebate checks to working Americans, and you could receive up to $2,400 under this very important legislation which Trump approved and Josh Hawley introduced. I'm gonna give you each and every detail, but all I need is just a little favor. It takes 2 seconds to please hit that like button on this video. So without any further ado, let's start the video. So let's start the video with new stimulus checks to millions of low and middle income Americans and its details, and why there is a need of this new stimulus check to these Americans from President Donald J. Trump. We have received some very shocking inflation numbers that literally stunned a number of analysts and experts as well. Look at this. US prices continue to rise in the month of July as Trump's tariff impacts consumer cost. Now this is important as prices were 2.7% higher last month compared with a year ago, and core inflation went up at higher pace than what was seen in June. Means every single month this inflation numbers are going up and up and up, and the problem is that no one is doing anything about it. But it seems like President Donald J. Trump is finally putting his attention to this very troubling situation for millions of Americans, and he said this.
Debt, we have a lot of money coming in, much more money than the country's ever seen, by hundreds of billions of dollars. And there could be a distribution or dividend to the people of our country. I would say for people that would be middle income people and lower income people, we could do a dividend. But one of the things we're going to be doing is reducing debt. But we have hundreds of billions of dollars pouring into our country now. We should have done this many years ago. And I did it in my first term with China. We didn't get to the rest because COVID hit.
So according to President Donald J. Trump, US is receiving billions and billions of dollars because of these reciprocal tariffs. And now he's thinking to give a portion of it to millions of low and middle income Americans so they can survive and thrive. And after this very important statement, Josh Hawley did this as Hawley introduced legislation to send rebate checks to working Americans, and the details are very important. Remember, this is from Josh Hawley's website itself. Today, US Senator Josh Hawley introduced the American Work and Rebate Act legislation that would send rebate checks to working Americans following the historic revenue occurred through President Donald J. Trump's tariff policy. A number of analysts and experts are saying that this administration is now forced to give these stimulus checks to Americans because of this worst inflation, and now they are predicting even worse numbers in the future. But according to this administration, they are receiving billions of dollars because of these reciprocal tariffs, and that's why they would like to direct a portion of these checks towards American low and middle income families and individuals. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think, which statement is true? Is this administration is forced to give these stimulus check to Americans because of this inflation, or President Donald J. Trump is receiving billions of dollars, means this economy is receiving billions of dollars because of those tariffs? So that's why now they are doing this favor on Americans by giving these stimulus checks. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think about it and what are your views about it. But at the same time, when we go towards this very important detail about the US inflation, US prices continue to rise in the month of July. According to the key economic data released on Tuesday, President Donald Donald J. Trump international tariff shakeup started to impact consumer cost. Prices were 2.7% higher last month compared with the year ago, according to the Consumer Price Index (CPI), which measures the prices of basket of goods and services. And this is indeed very shocking, because if you don't know, then let me just tell you. According to the recent report from Gallup, the prices of basic necessities, means groceries, are up by 21% in the past 3 years, and that's why millions of Americans are struggling. If you go to a grocery store, then you get to know that how the prices are going up and how these prices are impacting your current financial situation. And that's why these stimulus checks are definitely the answer of this inflation, according to a number of analysts and experts. Now, going towards the details of these new tariff rebate stimulus check to Americans, like when these checks are expected, how much these checks will be, and who's going to get these checks. So first, when these checks are expected, remember that right now this legislation has 3 hurdles. The first one is the debate. There'll be a committee which will debate on this legislation. Then after the debate, there'll be a voting on it, and this is the second hurdle. Well, after the voting, if it gets passed, which seems highly likely because right now Republican controls the Congress, after it gets passed from Senate and House, then it will move to President Donald J. Trump for his final approval and signature. And remember, President Donald J. Trump is the person who himself announced the possibility of these bills, and then Josh Hawley introduced this very important legislation. So it seems highly likely that he will sign on this legislation, and then Americans will receive this $600 per individual and child, as well as up to $2,400 for a family of 4. Now the question is still unanswered. When can we expect these checks? Well, there's not a specific time that we can tell you right here, but according to a number of analysts, this whole process could take at least a month or couple of months to be exact. So you need to keep this in mind. Now, as I mentioned earlier, that these checks will be $600 for every individual, $600 for every dependent, means every child, and the final cap is $2,400, means if you have a family of 4, you could receive $2,400. Or if you have a family of 5 or 6, you might not get the money for those individuals, because remember, there's a cap and it means $2,400 the final amount. If you are making $75,000 and less as an individual, you are going to get this check if approved. And if you are a couple, then you are going to get $1,200 if you make $150,000 and less if approved. And one thing that you need to understand is if you make over these amounts, then there will be a 5% deduction on these stimulus checks. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video very soon. Till then, please take care and have a nice day.